Hello everyone and welcome back to Overwatch 101. This is a series where I try my best to help console players get a little bit better at the game. That's, once again, not to say that you're bad, right? I'm not trying to put you down. I only want positive vibes for this game. But it is a little bit harder to play on console. It's a little bit harder to aim with the right thumbstick, right? Much harder than aiming with a mouse. At least that's what I've been told. Me personally, I like the feel of a controller. I like the feeling of it in my hands. I like the feeling of the left stick for movement. In my opinion, it's much more natural than WASD, right? The WASD keys. It's just much more natural. I like the feeling of a controller. But that's just me personally, right? But the pros are on PC. They know how to use the WASD keys to the best of their advantage, right? It doesn't bother them at all because they've been doing it for years. So for them, using mouse makes them much better at aiming for the most part. So that's what I'm trying to do, is take some of the tips and tricks that the pros use and pass them on to you console players. Alright, today we're defending on Eichenwalde. We just talked about attacking Eichenwalde, which can be relatively difficult up until the last part of it, which is actually much more difficult for the defense to defend, okay? But we are going to determine, we're not going to determine, we're going to discuss what are the best ways to defend Eichenwalde. Well, number one, when you first start out, you don't want to be anywhere else but right here, right? This is where you want to be, okay? Any further back is too far because then you're not going to be able to give them the aggression that you need to when they come through here, like they probably will, right? You want to be here so that if they do start to go through that way, boom, you can just attack them from here and not let them out, right? And you want to be here so that you can just spam into them with fire, right? Everyone can do that. So, this is where you want to defend. And this is pretty much it. This is the coup de grace, right? If they break through here, if they go through there and get that high ground and they've gotten a couple of pickoffs, then you really do just have to retreat back here to the payload, to the objective, I should say, and get as far away from that high ground as you can, right? Get as far back here as you can, give them their space, and then when they jump down, then you can be aggressive. Then you can fight it out, okay? That's what you can do when they jump down, because they will have to jump down eventually, okay? So if they do break through the choke, which God forbid they don't, because that's the only place to defend for this first objective. They break through, they grab that high ground, or even if they break through and they start moving this way, right? Your best bet is to just fall back to the objective and hold it against them. You don't really have enough time to get all the way up here to this high ground. This is a nice high ground to have, and it's really good for returning spawners, right? If you've just spawned back in from your old spawn, right, which is up there, I always recommend going through here and going to the right and taking the high ground as a returning spawner. Because if they're on the objective, then you can do all kinds of things to them from up here, right? You can ult with a McCree, you can ult with a soldier, and you can really zone them really well, right? They can have a hard time dealing with that. And then the rest of your team can just attack them while you're doing that, and it creates a lot of distress for them. It creates a lot of distraction, and so on and so forth. As a returning spawner, you always want to have that area up there, but as someone who maybe didn't die in the encounter with the choke point, but they took anyway, you just have to come back here and use the payload for cover as much as you can until they get here, and then you fight it out. Use your ults, fight it out, try to get the team wipe, okay? Try to hold it out for the people who did get eliminated and so that they can get back, okay? Now once the payload starts to move, okay, let's say they grab that payload and it starts to move. I've seen teams do this, and this is just pure madness. You absolutely do not hold right here. This is the number one no-no on Eichenwalde. You do not hold right here. This is way too close to their spawn, and they have, yeah, they could just go around, man. Like, you can't really see them because of this wall right here, so if you're just holding right here, they're just all going to come around behind you using that door right there, and they're going to slaughter you. Or they could even come through here and surprise attack you and things like that. So this is just much too close. But I've seen teams do this madness. I've seen teams do this, and it's crazy. Okay? As a defender, you have two options, just like on Hollywood, right? We've discussed you can either have the high ground or you can defend here on even playing ground, okay? I think that both have their advantages and their disadvantages. Obviously, the disadvantage of holding here is that you are on the low ground versus being on the high ground, which makes it harder to get headshots than it is on the high ground. But you have a really good field of view right here. They can't really do too much sneaky stuff from here without you knowing about it. If someone goes over the top, you'll see it. If someone goes right there, you'll see it. If someone comes from right there, you'll see it. Right there, you'll see it. And over there, you'll see it, okay? You'll see pretty much everything from here. So I like defending here, okay? But if you want to, okay, and I do recommend doing this as well, try both out and see what works best for you. You can take this high ground up here. It may take a while to get to, though. That is another disadvantage of the high ground, is you can take this and start doing a lot of damage from up here. The problem is you're only going to be able to do this for a short time, because after about 10 to 15 feet there, they're going to move into an area where it's going to be a lot harder to hit them, okay? So if you are going to be up here, then you can't really do this for too long. It depends on how skilled you are, okay? A much better place to hold, okay, is right here. This is a pretty good place to hold, because you can shoot them for a much longer time here. Also, being on these wooden planks right here, this is a pretty good place to hold, right? It's okay. It's not great because you don't really have a whole lot of room to move around behind the Reinhardt if you're a DPS or a healer. So I wouldn't recommend this as much as I would up there, right? Or right here. Those are really the only two places you're going to want to be. Any closer and you're way too close. Any further back and you're not giving enough resistance. You're not giving enough aggression. Well, let's say they push. And let's say they grab this bend in the road, okay? Let's say they do that. Well, the next best place we have to fall back to is right here in this choke, okay? This can be held for quite a long time, and the reason for that is because you can see pretty much everything they're doing. The only thing you can't see is if they decide to go all the way around up there and then get around behind, right? But you can always have someone keeping a watchful eye to say, okay, we've got someone going above, we've got someone going over to the left. You always have to have someone calling that out. That's your shot caller, right? Whereas the rest of your team is being aggressive here and fighting it out. Now, if you see someone going over there, they're either going to go around there and take this high ground up here, or they're going to go around and down to the bottom and try to go over here. That's what they're trying to do. So either way, if you see that, you call it out. You say, hey, we got someone going over to the right. Can we get someone to spot that and see where they're actually going, right? And then your spotter will say, okay, they're going top right, okay? Or they're going bottom right. And then we get someone to deal with that, okay? But this is a good place to hold because you can see most of their aggression, okay? And in the case that they take that flank way over there, the entire team takes that flank, then really you just turn and you defend because you're with the payload and they're not, right? It's similar to the Dorado instance, right? Where they take that really long flank, but it doesn't matter because we're over here with their payload and they're not. So really for them, their best bet is to either take the high ground above you and try to attack from up there, which can be very smart, or they just use their aggression and their skill to fight uphill. That's really their only options, okay? I mean, they could also take flanks here, but it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that without you seeing them, right? So that way it's not quite as good. Well, let's say that they get under this choke point and they start taking this area up here, okay? Well, you can try your best to fight them off here, to use this choke point here on the bridge, right? This is kind of the last really good place to hold. I mean, obviously back there, you're going to hold back there. But this is pretty good to hold, right? Because they have to come all the way up, right? And around this corner to get to you. And if you're using the payload for cover, that can be difficult to attack. But if they decide to take that flank, then they're actually a little bit closer to you now, right? And if they do that, then I would just use the payload for cover again, right? Use the payload for cover, wait for them to get to you, and then attack. You absolutely do not want to stand right here in the middle of the bridge. This is suicide. This is crazy. Not only is this really narrow, right? This is a narrow lane where you can easily get Reinhardt. You can easily get Reinhardt charged, right? Because you don't really have anywhere to go. But you can also just get knocked off. You can get knocked off by Lucios, by Divas, by Junkrats, things like that. You can get knocked off pretty easily. So if you're going to hold here before the bridge, this is pretty much it. This little bend in the road right before the bridge, this is the last place you can hold, okay? Before back here, okay? Now this can be a really nice place to hold. The problem with being back here is that now that flank that they could have taken before is actually much more effective now because they've backed you all the way up to here. So if they decide to take this flank, now they're going to be much closer and be able to do a lot more damage before you can react. okay? So that's why I don't like defending all the way back here unless I absolutely have to, because that flank now is much more appropriate and much more effective for them. All right, now let's say they get this checkpoint, because if they do get this close, it really is just a contest fest at this point. It really is you just trying your best to keep them from getting it, and you're kind of panicking. But let's say you don't get the team wipe that saves the game, and they get that checkpoint, and we move inside. Now, inside Eichenwalde is by far the worst place for defenders. It is the worst place in the entire game for the defending team, and the reason for that is because all of it is downhill for the attacking team. It is much easier for the attackers to push you back than it is for you to push them back up the hill, right? So when you're in here defending, really your only bet is to just take as much high ground as you can. Take it where it lies, okay? Because it's not going to be coming to you very often. When they come through here, you can kind of hold over here a little bit, okay? Just a little bit, but I don't like doing this because this kind of backs you into a corner. Now you can go through here, okay, to get a little bit of health, to get a little bit of cover, and then to come back here, right? So I don't really like defending over there because it just backs you into a corner and you have to take a long way around, and if you do that, then they're just going to move the payload. In all honesty, for Eichenwalde, there is no useful strategy for defending, except but to be in their face and to be aggressive. That's all you have to do on Eichenwalde. There is nowhere to fall back to and defend that isn't too far from the payload. Yes, you could be up there. Yes, you could be back there. But that is too far from the payload. You just have to be here and ready for their attack. And if they team wipe you, oh well. That's just, in my opinion, this is bad map design. I don't like that this is all downhill for the attackers, that they get all this momentum charged up like a snowball. I don't really like that, and I don't agree with this map design in that way, but oh well. There's nothing I can do about it. Blizzard have chosen to do this for whatever reason, and we as players have to play around it, okay? I've seen defensive teams hold here and hold really well here. It's all about being aggressive and picking off their priority targets, right? It's all about that, okay, when it comes to Eichenwalde defense. Because once you get down here to this bend in the road, it becomes a lot harder to defend. Yes, you do have this cover right here, and I would recommend using this as often as you can, okay? But other than that, you really don't have much left. You don't really have anywhere else you don't have anywhere to hide really too much. You don't have any high ground to take. You only have this cover to help you alleviate the pain so that a healer can heal you, and then you go back around the corner and start doing damage. Okay, but on Eichenwalde, you just have to be aggressive. It's pretty much an uphill battle from here on out, which sounds crazy, right? That you have to battle uphill as a defender, but you do. You really do have to just battle uphill and back them up and tell them, no, we're not going to take that. It doesn't matter that we're in the low ground. We're going to fight aggressively, and we're going to back you off. That's really all it takes, okay? Because, I mean, this is the win. So once they get this far, it really is just all about flooding out of the spawn and getting back here as quick as you can to contest, all right? And then hopefully getting your ultimate off before they get theirs off, right? Hopefully that works out in your favor, okay? I wish you all the best of luck with defending Eichenwalde, because for this last area, it can be extremely difficult. It is pretty much in the attacker's favor from here on out, which stinks. But like I said, a lot of things in life stink, right? And you just have to find a way around it. You just have to be aggressive and act proactively and be patient, okay? That's what it's all about. I hope you've enjoyed defending Eichenwalde, and I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors. This has been Overwatch 101, signing off.